Have you ever felt the unease of a smile that didn't quite reach the eyes? That quiet tension in the air when someone praises you, yet something in their tone feels rehearsed, calculated, almost too smooth to be real. It's a strange wound, not cut by open conflict, but by the silent hand that learns your patterns only to use them against you. The Stoics knew this danger well. Marcus Aurelius once warned, "The closer someone pretends to be, the more cautious you should become, because evil is rarely thunder in the sky. More often, it is the soft rain that seeps in, unnoticed, flattering, observing, and waiting. It does not seek friendship. It seeks entry into your thoughts, your trust, and eventually, your peace. Yet, you are not defenseless. Calmness can be sharper than anger. Clarity can be stronger than confrontation." In the next moments, we will walk through timeless principles, ways to remain untouchable even in the hands of those who scheme in silence. Stay with me. What you're about to hear may change the way you face them forever. As we step into the first chapter, picture a room filled with silence where two people sit across from each other. One of them is watching, not with warmth, but with calculation. The other, unaware, begins to speak, sharing dreams, fears, secrets they believe are safe. What looks like connection is in truth a quiet harvesting of weapons, and this is the danger. The more of yourself you give away without discernment, the more someone else can turn those pieces against you. Now imagine the unease of knowing someone is studying you, not because they admire you, but because they are waiting for the moment to press on your hidden wounds. The Stoics warned of this. Epictetus once said, "It's not things that upset us, but our opinions about things." Manipulators know this better than most. They dig for the opinions you carry like fragile glass, the fears that make your knees tremble, the doubts that whisper when no one else is around. Once found, they twist them until you doubt yourself, not because reality changed, but because your own mind has been turned against you. Consider how subtle this can be. A friend who remembers your fear of failure may lean close as you're about to take a leap and say softly, "Are you sure this is really your thing? You don't want to end up embarrassed again." On the surface, it sounds like concern, but beneath, it is a strike aimed directly at your courage. That one sentence can freeze momentum more effectively than 100 insults. This is how fear, when revealed carelessly, becomes a chain in another's hands. Here's where the story deepens. There was once a young architect, bright and ambitious, who had finally won his first independent contract. Years before, he had confessed to an older colleague that his father never approved of his creative path, and that deep down he still feared disappointing him. When the contract was announced, the colleague approached him with a smirk. "This is big. Don't mess it up. I heard your dad still not impressed." In an instant, all his doubts returned. Not because the world had collapsed, but because his fear had been handed back to him like a weapon. He had given away the key to his own prison. From here, the lesson is clear. Your fears are not just private storms. They can be forged into chains if placed in the wrong hands. The Stoic does not deny feeling fear, but he disciplines it. He does not scatter his inner world carelessly in the name of honesty. He reflects before revealing, listens more than he speaks, and when he chooses to share, it is with intention, not compulsion. This restraint is not coldness, it is strength. It is the understanding that intimacy is proven by action and consistency, not by charm or curiosity. Think of how many people reveal too much, too soon. They pour out their anxieties hoping to be comforted, but instead they offer manipulators a map, Fear of abandonment becomes a lever to keep them compliant. Fear of being misunderstood becomes a hook that forces them to over-explain. Fear of conflict becomes the silence that traps them in submission. And all of it begins with giving away what should have been guarded. At this stage, the Stoic mind takes another path. It watches its own impulses with detachment. It asks, why do I feel the urge to share this? What am I seeking, strength or approval? If the answer is approval, silence is wiser. If the answer is strength, then words may be spoken, but only with those who have earned trust. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, but it also becomes shaped by the company allowed to handle those thoughts. Give them carelessly, and you invite erosion. Share them wisely, and you build resilience. There is power in solitude, in journaling, in sitting with your own storms until you learn their shape. When you know your fears intimately, they cannot be weaponized so easily. A man who has learned to sit with his fear without panic is dangerous to those who live off control. Because when your fears no longer govern you, neither can they." Now imagine another scene. Someone tries to corner you emotionally with guilt, tries to shake your calm with threats, tries to provoke confession with questions dressed as kindness. But instead of panic, you remain still. You answer with clarity, or perhaps you say nothing at all. That stillness unsettles them. They cannot predict you. They cannot read you. And the moment they cannot predict you, they can no longer manipulate you. Let's be clear. Mastery over fear is not pretending to be fearless. It is standing firm even when fear still hums in your chest. It is choosing with judgment whether that fear deserves your attention or whether it is smoke without fire. Most fears evaporate when held to the light of scrutiny, and even those that remain lose power when you move forward despite them. That is Stoicism in action. To act by principle, not by impulse. To choose strength when anxiety whispers otherwise. Here's the truth. Many will seek entry into your vulnerabilities, and many will disguise their curiosity as care. The wise do not become stone, but they do build a fortress within. Not to shut the world out, but to ensure that only the worthy may enter. And when someone reaches for your emotions like strings to be pulled, the Stoic remains steady. No panic, no confession, no unnecessary explanation. This is how you begin to outsmart, not by noise, not by dramatic defense, but by mastery. By guarding your fears as a gatekeeper guards a citadel, because the one who owns his inner world cannot be enslaved by the outer world. And when you reach this point, you will be ready for the next challenge, understanding how to disarm their tactics before they even begin. Let's move there now. Moving into the second chapter, picture how quickly a whisper can spread. A single sentence, dropped with confidence, can move faster than fire across a dry plain. Truth may walk slowly, but lies run marathons. And in a world of half-heard headlines, fleeting impressions, and messages consumed in seconds, this truth is more dangerous than ever. Manipulators know this. They do not need to attack with force. They conquer with belief. Belief you accepted without question. Belief you never paused to examine. Now imagine yourself at the edge of such a moment. You hear something whispered about you. Your first instinct is to defend, to react, to push back. But here lies the trap. The instant you react, the rumor owns you. It becomes yours. You breathe it in like smoke, and from that moment forward, you fight shadows that someone else painted across your mind. The Stoics knew the value of resisting this reflex. They warned us never to surrender our judgment, never to let another's words bypass the discipline of our own reason. Epictetus, sharp as ever, said, "If someone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults. Else he would not have mentioned only these.'" Do you feel the freedom in that? He refuses to be shaken. He does not defend. He does not scramble to repair his image. He keeps his judgment intact. Here's where the story of Joel begins. Joel worked in a firm where trust and collaboration were the lifeblood of the team. Then came Marcus, a new hire, confident, charismatic, and disarmingly attentive. In weeks, Marcus seemed to know everything. Who was discontent? Who felt unseen? Who longed for recognition? To Joel, he leaned close and whispered, "Management doesn't see your potential, but I do. They're too blind to notice." Joel felt valued. He leaned in, and Marcus, day by day, fed his doubts with carefully chosen words. Rumors of colleagues talking behind his back, whispers of others stealing his ideas. Slowly, Joel's trust eroded. He grew bitter, distant, until one day he exploded, confronting his team with accusations. But the rumors were false. The tension had been manufactured. Marcus wanted Joel's role and achieved it without lifting a weapon. He planted, Joel watered, and belief did the rest. That is the true danger. When you believe without scrutiny, you allow someone else to rewrite the map of your own mind. And once your perception is hijacked, your actions will follow. The Stoic mind is not one that believes nothing, but one that believes carefully, deliberately. It asks, where is this information coming from? What does this person gain if I accept it? Is this fact, or is this assumption dressed as truth? Think about the age we live in now. Social feeds thrive on exaggeration. Headlines are crafted to provoke outrage, not to deliver clarity. Even those close to us, family, friends, colleagues, sometimes speak not from truth, but from fear, insecurity, or wounded pride. If you absorb everything without filtering, you inherit not just their words, but their distortions. You carry their shadows. But if you pause, if you wait, weigh, and test, you reclaim your sight. Marcus Aurelius urged himself to remain steady under pressure, like a man who stands while storms rage and yet refuses to be shaken. This is the image to carry. Let the rumors crash. Let the noise beat against you. Remain unmoved, because truth does not panic. Truth does not rush. It does not shout for your attention. Lies, on the other hand, wear urgency like armor. They hiss, don't think, react now. Here's the practice. Cultivate slow belief, not hesitation for hesitation's sake, but the careful pace of a craftsman working fine marble. The sculptor does not strike without measuring. The builder does not raise walls without first testing the foundation, and you must not raise trust without first testing the ground. When someone makes a bold claim, ask calmly, what makes you say that? If a story triggers a flood of emotion, pause and ask, what part of me is reacting and why? If something sounds too perfect, too aligned with your secret hopes, consider that it might be designed to do just that. And notice this irony. Manipulators are not afraid of your strength. They are not afraid of your loud defenses or your quick retorts. What unsettles them is your clarity. They fear the one who asks questions, who withholds agreement, who refuses to be rushed into reaction. They fear the calm skeptic who waits until evidence is undeniable. That kind of person cannot be led by strings. That kind of mind is unshakable. So ask yourself the hard questions. Am I believing this because it is true or because it is convenient? Am I reacting because I trust the source? or because I fear the cost of doubt. Each time you resist the urge to accept something simply because it feels good or sounds urgent, you reclaim a piece of your power. You shift from being led to being the one who chooses. And that choice, repeated again and again, becomes freedom. Let others rush. Let them be swept away by flattery, by fear, by urgency. You, the Stoic, will stand still. You will guard your judgment as your most sacred possession. You will not be shaken by every wave, nor carried away by every rumor. This discipline is not easy. It is a muscle. It must be trained. But with practice, it becomes second nature. And when it does, you will begin to notice the game being played around you. You will see the manipulators' tactics before they land. You will watch their illusions fall apart in the light of your stillness. And you will smile, not with arrogance, but with calm knowledge that they cannot touch you. This is how freedom is won, not in noise, not in defense, but in the pause between hearing and believing, that sacred space where you claim your judgment as your own. And once you have built this strength, another lesson awaits. For sometimes the greatest shield is not your words at all, but your silence. Not reacting, not explaining, not offering the very fuel they need to twist against you. And that is where we now turn. Advancing to the third chapter, picture the brightness of triumph, the applause of colleagues, the warmth of friends, the rush of pride rising in your chest. In such moments, the heart is wide open, and when the heart is open, it is also unguarded. This is the paradox the Stoics saw with clear eyes. Danger does not only strike when we are weak, it often comes quietly when we are strongest, hidden in the glow of our delight. Now imagine Elias. Years of effort had carried him to the role of creative director, the job he had dreamed of since youth. His joy was contagious. His friends celebrated. His family embraced him. His world seemed bright. Then into that glow stepped an old acquaintance. A smile, a handshake, a voice dripping with admiration. You've made it. And because it's you, I have something special, an opportunity. I wasn't going to tell anyone else. Elias, still burning with the fire of victory, said yes before thinking. 6 months later, the truth revealed itself. A scam, the acquaintance gone, and Elias left not only poorer in coin, but poorer in trust. His joy had betrayed him, not because joy is evil, but because he had let joy silence his reason. Here's where another story unfolds. Olivia, newly engaged, surrounded by friends and family, glowing with love. Compliments poured over her like petals in the wind. In that glow, her fiancé's brother approached quietly. Now that you're family, maybe you can help us. Just a small loan. Just between us. Olivia hesitated, but her happiness softened her caution. She agreed. That first yes became another, then another. When the money was gone and her patience ended, she was painted as selfish, ungrateful, divisive. What betrayed her was not cruelty from others, it was the way her unguarded joy left her exposed. From here, the Stoic principle is clear. Emotions are not enemies, but they must be governed. Seneca wrote, "Nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart. Gratitude ennobles." But he also warned, no emotion, even joy, should be allowed to overthrow reason. For joy, when unrestrained, can lead to recklessness as surely as anger leads to destruction. When you're angry, you may speak what you regret. When you're joyful, you may agree to what you regret. The peril is equal. This is why the disciplined mind celebrates inwardly, but remains outwardly measured. It smiles, but it does not surrender judgment. It accepts gifts, but it still asks questions. It enjoys praise, but it does not build its choices on applause. The Stoic pauses and asks, "What am I about to commit to? Who benefits from this choice? Would I agree to this if my mood were steady and calm?" These are not cynical questions. They are shields. Here's something many overlook. Manipulators often prefer you happy, not sad. When you are sad, you are wary. You guard yourself. But in happiness, you want to believe the best in everyone. You want to share, to include, to lift others with you. And that is when you are most vulnerable. That is when a quiet request slips past your defenses. But the Stoic cultivates a different kind of joy. Not the shallow joy that craves recognition, not the restless joy that demands validation. Instead, a joy rooted in virtue, unshaken by circumstance. It is deep, steady, quiet. It celebrates without surrendering its clarity. It smiles without forgetting its footing. Let me share a practice that has kept me steady. Whenever something good happens, a raise, an award, a compliment, I write down the opportunities that flow from it. Then I wait 48 hours before acting. If, after reflection, the idea still holds its weight, I proceed. If not, I let it pass. This simple pause has saved me more times than I can count. It is not hesitation, it is wisdom. Because clarity often comes after the storm of emotion has calmed. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote of this posture, to stand like a rock unmoved by waves, steady in triumph as in trial. Confidence is not shown by saying yes to every offer, but by having the strength to say, "Let me think." That pause is power. That pause is freedom. So remember this. Not everyone who claps when you win is on your side. Some wait for you to drop your guard, to relax into your own delight, to let reason fall asleep. Guard your joy with the same vigilance you guard your sorrow, for both can be exploited if left unchecked. And if you've ever made a choice in joy that turned bitter later, know this, you are not alone. It has happened to kings and emperors, to generals and sages. What matters is not that it happened, but that you learn, that you resolve not to repeat it. Here's the truth that crowns this lesson. Joy is meant to strengthen you, not enslave you. Celebrate it, but do not be ruled by it. Because when joy is steady, no manipulator can turn it against you. When joy is governed, it cannot be stolen. And so we close this chapter with one vow: to enjoy life's victories without letting them blind us. To smile at fortune, but never to surrender reason. For the path does not end here. Once you have learned to guard your joy, the next lesson calls you forward, the art of silence and how to wield it when others demand explanation. That, my friend, is where we now turn. From here, let us step into the fourth chapter, where generosity turns into a chain and favors become shackles. Imagine someone reaching out with a smile, helping you in a moment of weakness. A kind gesture, a small act of support. At first it feels warm, reassuring, even noble. Yet, hidden inside that gift is a hook. They do not demand anything immediately. They wait. And in that waiting, the seed of control begins to grow. The Stoics understood this trap long before it was given a name. Reciprocity, when genuine, is the glue of friendship. It builds trust. But when poisoned, it becomes a leash around your neck. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." To act from guilt, to bend out of pressure, is not virtue. It is surrender. And manipulators know this. They give not out of kindness, but out of calculation. They trade coffee for silence, favors for loyalty, and generosity for your obedience. Here's where we meet Natalie. Young, bright and eager, she joined a large firm with hope in her heart. Her manager, Paul, noticed her early. He praised her, guided her, vouched for her in meetings. She was grateful. She believed she had found a mentor. But slowly, the requests began. Stay late to finish my work. Cover for me in meetings. Speak on my behalf when I don't want to face the directors. Each request came laced with a subtle undertone. After everything I've done for you, this is the least you could do. Natalie swallowed her discomfort until the day Paul asked her to alter numbers in a report. She froze, and Paul leaned closer. I gave you your start. Don't forget that. In that instant, she realized the line had not simply been crossed. It had been erased. This is the sting of manipulated gratitude. What once felt like guidance becomes a chain of guilt. And here lies the truth. Gratitude is noble, but when it leads you to betray yourself, it turns into self-betrayal. The Stoic does not repay kindness with submission. He repays with integrity. To thank someone is human. To give back when possible is good. But to abandon reason, dignity or principle in the name of debt is slavery. Think of Kevin too. In his small community initiative, he was known for reliability, for showing up when needed. Once, in a hard season, an organizer named Linda helped him find housing. It was generous, and Kevin felt deeply indebted. But months later, Linda began to cash that debt like currency. Co-sign this document. Take responsibility for this event. Lie to the others to cover my mistakes. And when Kevin hesitated, she whispered, "Where would you be if I hadn't helped you?" Again, guilt was the weapon. A memory of kindness turned into a leash. At this stage, the Stoic lesson becomes urgent. Serve not with compulsion, but with conviction. There is a line between kindness and control, between helping and being used. If you do not set your own limits, others will set them for you, and when you let others define your boundaries, you will always live inside their cage. So ask yourself 3 questions. First, am I doing this because it is right, or because I fear what will happen if I say no? If fear is the reason, pause. Second, what is this costing me not only in time and energy, but in clarity, dignity and peace of mind? If the cost is resentment or shame, then the answer is no. Third, is this relationship balanced? Do both give and receive, or is one always taking while the other slowly withers? These questions are not selfish, they are shields. Seneca warned us with piercing clarity. No man can live a happy life if he turns everything to his own purposes. Yet no man can live a fulfilled life if he gives everything away without thought. Between greed and endless giving lies the path of wisdom. That is where boundaries live. To say no is not cruelty. To resist guilt is not arrogance. It is simply honesty. And honesty is what you owe, not to them, but to yourself. If you give beyond your limits, you will break. If you serve without boundaries, bitterness will take root. If you allow guilt to dictate your choices, you are not in a relationship. You are in a trap. Remember this: a favor that becomes a leash was never a gift. It was bait. True generosity frees both the giver and the receiver. But manipulation disguises coercion as kindness. The difference lies in your discernment. When someone reminds you of what they once did for you as a way to push you beyond your edge, hear the echo of Stoic wisdom. Your worth is not measured by how much you give away, but by how faithfully you guard what matters most. And what matters most is not your reputation in their eyes, but your alignment with your own reason. So the next time someone says, "After all I've done for you," breathe deeply. Look inward. If the act required of you violates truth, dignity, or peace, then let your answer be quiet and firm. I cannot do that. No apology needed, no elaborate justification, just clarity, because clarity is stronger than guilt. This is the mark of true strength, to give freely when it is right, and to withhold when it is not. To recognize that your life is not a debt to be collected, but a path to be lived with integrity. When you protect your limits, you not only guard your own soul, you teach others how to walk with you in honesty. And as this chapter closes, the road bends toward the next challenge. For once you've set your limits, once you've freed yourself from chains of guilt, another test awaits. Learning when silence itself becomes the shield sharper than any word. That is where we now turn. Entering the 5th chapter, picture a quiet conversation that feels harmless on the surface. Someone leans in, their tone soft, their eyes attentive, and they ask you questions about your past, your regrets, your private fears. You feel seen, heard, even special. But what if that interest is not care, but calculation? What if their silence is not empathy, but a net waiting to catch every word you drop? This is the danger the Stoics warned us about. Not every question is a bridge. Sometimes it is a trap. Now, imagine this unsettling truth. Not all curiosity is born of kindness. Epictetus once reminded us, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. Many hear this as humility, but it's also strategy. The wise listen more, not because they are timid, but because they know the tongue can betray the fortress within. Words are keys, and once given away, they can unlock the very doors you thought were safe. Here's where the story of Michael unfolds. He was proud of his openness, a man who believed that honesty built bonds. At his new job, he found a co-worker named Darren who seemed genuinely curious. Darren asked about his childhood, his family, his insecurities, his doubts at work. Michael, flattered by the attention, spoke freely. He revealed old wounds with his brother, mistakes he regretted, even whispered his fear of not belonging on the team. But Darren never revealed much himself. He only listened, nodding, smiling, gathering. Months later, in a performance review, Michael was blindsided. His manager listed concerns about his confidence, his family distractions, his uncertainty. Phrases Michael had spoken in confidence now stood against him. Darren had not attacked with lies. He had simply collected truths and placed them like stones in Michael's path. This is the chilling part. Manipulators don't always need to lie. They only need you to speak without guard. They don't need to strike. They only need your words, and with patience, they turn them into the very ropes that bind you. Here's where another story deepens the wound. Lena had always trusted her cousin Rachel. After a painful breakup, Lena poured out her soul. Hours of tears, confessions, intimate details she thought would be safe. Rachel listened, but said little. Days later, whispers spread through the family, stories twisted, judgments whispered, accusations rooted in words Lena herself had spoken. The breakup didn't crush her as much as the betrayal did. She had handed her heart to someone who saw it not as treasure, but as material to scatter. From here, the Stoic lesson becomes clear. Vulnerability, when given wisely, is strength. But when given carelessly, it is a liability. Think of it as leaving your door unlocked simply because someone smiled. Would you show a stranger you're safe simply because they asked nicely? Of course not. Yet people do this with their inner lives every day. They confuse attention with love. They mistake curiosity for care. So how do we protect ourselves? Stoicism offers timeless guidance. First, observe before you speak. If someone always asks but never shares, take note. True connection is reciprocal. If your vulnerability always flows one way, it is not dialogue, it is interrogation. Second, embrace silence. Not every pause must be filled. You do not owe explanations for every scar. Let trust build slowly, not on charm, but on consistency. Third, share with intention. Speak to connect, not to relieve yourself of emotion. Speak when your words carry purpose, not when you are simply seeking release. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." But we might add, it also becomes stained by the company it keeps and by the truths given away too freely. Every time you speak of your struggles, you hand someone a piece of your inner life. Make sure they know what to do with it. And if they don't, keep it for yourself. At this stage, the challenge is to accept that caution is not coldness, reserve is not cruelty, silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. Your inner life is not public property. You are not obliged to reveal yourself to anyone who asks. And if someone insists, pressing harder, guilting you, calling you selfish for keeping your peace, that insistence is itself manipulation. Here's the rule that matters. You don't need to speak less. You only need to choose better. Your past, your wounds, your victories, they are sacred. Give them to people who honor them, not to those who extract them. If restraint is misunderstood as distance, so be it. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to walk in clarity. And clarity begins with self-possession. A person who minds what they reveal walks through life with quiet strength. They are unreadable, not because they are hiding, but because they are whole. Wholeness cannot be picked apart by casual questions. It cannot be dissected by gossip. It stands intact, even in silence. So remember this. If you leave a conversation feeling lighter, seen and safe, you are likely with someone worthy of your truth. If you leave feeling exposed, uneasy, or diminished, trust that warning. It is your soul whispering, "That was not a safe place." Listen, because you do not owe the world your vulnerability. You owe yourself your peace. And when you learn to guard it with quiet strength, no mask, no tactic, no manipulator will ever truly reach you. And as we close this chapter, we turn to the final truth. Once your fears, your judgment, your joy, your limits and your words are protected, there remains one last shield. It is silence itself, the kind that commands respect without explanation, and that is where we go next. The world can be heavy at times, and walking through it with wisdom asks for more than good intentions. It asks for clarity, for restraint, and for the courage to stand firm without losing yourself. What you heard today is not just theory, it is a path. A reminder that your growth is your greatest shield against those who would use your openness as a weapon. If this message brought value, take a moment to subscribe so these lessons can walk with you in the days ahead. And share your voice below with a simple comment. Stay sharp. Let that be your quiet vow, your reminder to rise above manipulation with calm strength. Ahead lies more to uncover, more to strengthen, and the next video will guide you deeper into mastering your mind and protecting your peace. Keep moving forward. You are not alone in this journey.